Hey, I'm making a quick video because I came up with a really cool metaphor that um, gave me like an aha moment, and I just wanted to share it before I forget it. So, for those of us that are on this journey into self awareness and therefore a sense of spirituality and all these things, right? Um, I've been thinking, like how can I explain or what kind of concept is similar to explain how like as we come into self-awareness and a greater spiritual understanding, why we should not look down upon the others that are less aware, more ignorant and all of that. And it came to me when I was watching this short on Facebook of this woman doing a skit teaching people through the skit of like what kind of questions or how to treat basically a person who has dementia that you're caring for, and they are saying they're going to go do something or see someone that isn't alive anymore or something like that. When you confront them with the reality that they're not aware of, right, this can backfire for elderly people with dementia. And so in the skit she showed out that what you should do instead if like your demented mother is saying she's going to go see her mom who's been dead for years, you don't say, hey, your mom's been dead for years, because that's upsetting to her, right? She doesn't know that. It's a shock. It's not common knowledge for her. So instead, what you're supposed to do is say, oh, where do you think that it, like, get information to try to get them to like talk to you. You're not arguing or fighting. You want to know. And so that maybe they think, oh, she's in New York. And you're like, oh, okay. You're supposed to say, can I come with you? Right. And so I really thought that was beautiful, because if these people who are suffering from dementia are trying to abscond from the home, um, you don't want to physically force them, right, to stay in the house. You don't want to argue with them and disturb them. You just want to make sure they're safe, right? So you will follow them where they go outside. And if you can, find like a reason to kind of get them to second guess going out there, like, hey, well, actually, we're in another state, so, or we need to get a plane ticket there. Why don't we go check the computer and see what times are available so that you can prevent them from leaving the house, right? And so this got me thinking about, in a way, like this is the kind of care and compassion and gentleness that those of us who are reaching more self and spiritual awareness need to be taking with those who are not there yet. Because one, we're not better than them. Like when we are taking care of someone with dementia, we're not thinking, well, I'm so much better than them because I can remember yesterday. Right? That's ridiculous, right? Um, and we're not gonna try and force them to remember life. Like, you need to remember that this, and this happened. That's not. It's silly. It's not gonna work, first off, and it's just gonna cause them more distress. And so too, when we encounter those who are less self-aware or less spiritually aware, we're not going to help them by yelling at them or thinking we're better than them or being aggressive with them or belittling them for not knowing better. If we really want to help people, if we really are becoming self-aware and more spiritual, we want to help people. We don't want to hurt people, right? And so I, the metaphor I came up with is that we need to treat people who are less aware than us as though they have a spiritual dementia with kindness. And we don't want them to run off and go get lost either, right? And just, let them cause harm to themselves. But we also can't force what we know onto them, because their minds just, they're not there yet. And I'm not saying they're incapable of that, but everyone is going to reach whatever point they reach on their own time. And just either way, you can't force spiritual growth or self-awareness on people. We can try and spur it in others, but at the same time too, I have noticed that that's also an exhausting approach for me, and I don't want that for me. So this new metaphor that I just kind of came up with while watching this video about people, how to help people with dementia, that are potentially trying to leave their safe place and enter a place where harm could come to them, right? So too, like when we see these people that are not grasping their own, I don't know, what's the word? I want to say flaws, but that's not exactly what I'm looking for. like perhaps they're not aware of the places where they're not aware, right? And we all have had times where we're ignorant of our own ignorance. So when we find ourselves in a position of awareness and we see someone who is in ignorance, it doesn't mean we're better than them, right? And I knew this, but I think what proves we are more spiritually and self-aware is that we will adopt this kind of mindset of gentleness and kindness and not wanting to disturb them, while also understanding that we are privy to information that they are not, and that we can use this information to help guide them towards something that is more productive for them. And again, too, it's not about like trying to change people or influence people, but I do think that this is an interesting way of thinking of it, because I have run into a lot of people who maybe do have a lot of wisdom or knowledge in these regards, yet seem to kind of fall into the ego trap of thinking that because they have more wisdom or knowledge or awareness than another person, that gives them the superiority when they connect, right? And I think, like I have said, I think the end map of coming into self-awareness is the totality of awareness, that though your body is separate and physical, your spirit and consciousness is one with all of consciousness, right? Consciousness is its own entity, and it takes on infinite physical forms. And so when we can live in that complete awareness, yada yada, but either way, we're all on the journey there. So like, if we're judging other pieces of ourselves, individuals who are in separate bodies as us, because of their lacking, we're not helping anyone. We're not helping us. We're not helping them. And so what does help, and I keep coming back to compassion, is an empathy. These are the forces that help us grow better as a consciousness. And just as individual people as well, when we can try to put compassion and empathy in the forefront of our emotions that are guiding our actions or thought processes, it is easier for us as well. Because, I don't know, I made a little video about how I spent a day trying to engage with bigots, asking them questions that could help me better understand how they got to where they're at, like what points in their life led to them believing that certain people don't deserve life while they do, right? Because I just don't understand that train of thought. I'm completely ignorant in that way of thinking. And so I was seeking to understand, even if there was no logic, so that I could grow my compassion for these people. But now I see that isn't necessary. It is a route I could go, but I have personally found it to be exhausting mentally, and I just don't want to do it. And I don't have to. If it's not making me feel good, then it's probably not making other people feel good. And I will say, I did find it effective with one person online in particular who had been championing for MAGA stuff. And throughout our discourse of me asking how they arrived at their train of thought, we came to the understanding that what we were both actually really upset about was corporate greed. It was big corporations stealing money from individuals. And I was like, wow, look, we can agree there. And so finding that little spark of humanity in one another, I thought was really beautiful. But again, I had a lot of unsuccessful pieces of this happen as well, where people just continued to hurl ad hominem attacks and insults at me and did not answer a single question, did not seem to do a bit of reflecting. It seemed to just make them think less, actually, which was the opposite of what I was hoping for, and explain even less, which was even more the opposite of what I was hoping for. If anything, it made them harder to empathize with when they were just insulting me and not even engaging in dialogue or communication whatsoever. Because communication's a two-way street. They're basically just talking at me and I was talking at them, and it wasn't going anywhere. despite my openness and true genuine willingness to try to understand. So I no longer want to use that method. And I know this is a quick change, but life is kind of just trial and error, right? So in this new perspective I have, I'm looking at people who are bigots, who don't choose kindness and acceptance and love and all of the good things in life that, you know, people want and actually need. If I can look at them sort of as people with like an emotional kind of dementia or spiritual dementia, they don't have the ability, they've forgotten, and perhaps they can remember, unlike physical dementia, but you know, they no longer have the information in their head. They have forgotten or do not know how to arrive at my understanding because they don't have the information. And so I don't want to take on that attitude of thinking of them as lesser than me. We don't think of children as lesser than us. I mean, I guess some people do, I don't know. But I don't personally think of like children or the demented elderly as lesser than me. It's not about anyone being better or worse in that regard when I have that kind of dynamic or relationship. It's about, I see that they are more vulnerable than I am, and I want to try and help them and protect them. And that is love to me. And so that compassion, if I can try to have that perspective with this new metaphorical understanding that I thought of, I think that's going to help me a lot more. And maybe these are supposed to be in tandem with one another simultaneously, the asking questions with the sense of non-judgment and unbearable compassion instead. And I love that phrase, unbearable compassion. That's a whole other rant I could go into, but yeah. I just yeah, I don't know. I thought maybe this could be something good to talk about, and at least for me to record so I can come back to it later if I seem to stray from this understanding or perspective, or I'm having trouble with it. I can remember my root intention behind it. It's because we care. Because we're all just walking each other home, right? We're all here together now. And no one is better than the other. Some may be more kind and loving, but in the end, even the ugly pieces of us are a necessary part of the existence to better understand why the good parts of us are good. Why they are pleasurable. Without pain, we don't know pleasure, right? Vice versa. So it's just interesting because I've had a hell of a time keeping my sanity as an American who is on the side of the people that are having legislation made to hurt them, or removed in order to hurt them, or removed just so that they're not being helped. And these are scary times for a lot of people. And so for me, I didn't want to be angry with people anymore. I don't want to keep fighting. I know you're wrong, and you think I'm wrong. And I think I'm right, and you think you're right, and like, cool, what now? If I'm still getting upset in my personal life, then I'm losing. And it's not really even about lose-win or anything like that, but I'm not having the life I want if I'm spending my time being upset about things, right? And so sure, I could ignore it all and pretend it doesn't exist, but that doesn't seem right to me. I could wait around for someone to save me and make things better, but that doesn't seem right either. What has felt right for me is exploring my own mind and how I can keep my sanity amongst the worst of the worst and the chaotic of the most chaotic of the chaotic, how I can keep that inner peace regardless of the external stimuli that may or may not be affecting me. And so I think that understanding and patience, to cultivate that with those that have not developed self-awareness or spiritual awareness as much as us, then that is, I find it dissolves a lot of my anger and upset with them. It doesn't mean it's not frustrating, it doesn't mean it's not tiring, just as being a caretaker for someone with dementia would obviously be, it would be trying and exhausting. But it doesn't leave you feeling like you did wrong, right? And that's how arguing with people has made me feel. Even if I think I'm arguing for what's right, I still feel wrong because I'm arguing, and that's not what I want to spend my time doing, right? So yeah, if anyone else who has been following this is feeling the same way as me, maybe this will be useful. All right, have a good one, everyone. Bye.